All right, welcome everyone, and welcome those of you who are watching online. This class is going to be very different than the 4 previous classes and most of the classes I've taught the last 5 years. Even though I prepared a PowerPoint in a class for tonight, I decided not to use it. And instead, what I thought about in the last few days is what will be more valuable is if we just do hands-on experiments with card reading and testing our intuition that way. That way you're going to actually, rather than get filled with more information and more handouts, we're going to do something more experiential, and I will be answering questions and having students also do spreads for one another, because that's the only way you're going to learn it and get good at it. So that's what we're doing tonight. You know, this is the last class, the 5th class in the series, so I will be taking a break for a while. So there you have it. Welcome everyone. Thus far in this class, we have learned 3 spreads, which go from the simplest to the most complex. So those of you watching online, at this point you have a really good view of a tabletop, which I hope you've studied the wood grain carefully. And for the remainder of the evening, you'll be seeing spreads. I'm sitting off picture in order for you to be able to see the cards as they show up facing me. Does anyone have a yes or no question that can be answered? Yes?
Sure.
Then I will have you take the chair Laura's in. That way I'm sitting across. You're not going to be on camera. It's just showing here. So, all right, and the question is
the plan for me at my new duty station for me to be the director of operations?
All right, we have the question. So I'm focusing in on the question. Again, I'm just going to repeat the process while I shuffle and cut the cards. And while I'm doing that, I'm internally searching for a truthful answer to his question. And the process is I'm mixing the cards around, turning some upside down, and I'll shuffle using the left hand, cut from right to left. I rearrange the cards so that some of them are being turned around in the process. I go through the same thing 3 times. And John, will you state your factoid again of what you learned about the shuffling process while I'm doing this, just to keep our guest entertained?
The number of possible combinations of cards in a 78 card deck is 78 factorial, which is 78 times 77 times 76 times 75 all the way down, and it is a number like way bigger than the number of seconds that the Earth is old. It's an astronomical number, and so the odds are every time you shuffle the cards, put any real effort into it, there's never going to be any other shuffle like that in the history of, or odds are that there's never been a shuffle identical to. Wow.
One idea is that it's a completely random arrangement of the cards, which is what John described. And then the other idea that Zane describes is that there is a process of psychokinesis going on. This may not be happening necessarily when one is shuffling for a poker game, but when one goes into their ritual of tarot and extending their consciousness and dialing into the inner plane to get information, what we believe happens is not just randomness, which he's described, but which Jung also believed took place, but that there's actually a manipulation of the deck going on by the unconscious mind, which brings the cards which will answer the question basically to the top of the deck. And then they are placed face down. In the yes or no spread, we're only using 5 cards. This is the simplest spread I can teach you. And they're arranged from right to left. And basically, the way they are read, and you'll have handouts, is each card has the value of 1 point, with the exception of the center card, which we give a 2-point value. What we're looking for to determine yes or no is the direction which the cards fall. As you saw in the shuffling process, I was turning them around each time, so we know some are facing north and some are facing south. If the majority of the cards are right side up, the answer is yes. If they're reversed, the answer is no. Normally in a spread, I would turn the cards over one at a time and focus in on very specific interpretation, and then go back and make a story. The exception to that rule is the yes or no spread, where we want to turn them all over immediately to see the direction which they fall, because that's giving us our answer. Is it yes or no? Then what we do is we go back and we interpret each card individually and then try to make a story. The positions in the spread are the distant past, the near past, the present, the near future, and the distant future. So, to answer your question, the simple answer is yes. The bigger answer is more complicated, and we have to look at it card by card. And what I will do, for those of you online, I don't know how clearly you can see these, but I will also describe the card. In the distant past of the matter, we have the 3 of Cups, and it's reversed. So it's the only card out of these 5 that's saying no. And the 3 of Cups, normally we read as a marriage for love, but it can be interpreted as any type of relationship building that's gone on. So it looks like over the length of your career, you've put a certain amount of time into relationship building, which has possibly either brought about this move or the recommendation that has come your way. So from this, I would suspect that there's somebody out there thinking of you and who may have a plan for you. The near future is the 5 of Cups, which is normally read as a love affair. And certainly when I've heard you speak of your job, you do so with the enthusiasm and excitement that one might talking about their lover. So I'm assuming that to some degree the romance that's going on here is the fact that you've been able to find some pleasure in whatever you're doing, and your descriptions over time have been meeting a challenge. Definitely. And incorporating that into your strengths. So that's the inner meaning to this card is responsibility. So that could have to do with the potential grade change that you may be looking at, and the ultimate position. The center card represents the present of the matter, but it can also, to some degree, represent you. And it's pictured by the King of Cups, also right side up. All of the cards are right side up, except for the first card. And the King of Cups represents a man of Cancer temperament, which I don't think is your sun sign, but the nature of Cancer is somebody who may be strong in their feelings about things, may move from an intuitive sense, can be very connected to home and family, and the best quality is tenacity. So I think in terms of achieving the goal, in the process you may have to show some interest, willingness, for that position, as well as being actively tenacious in pursuing this. This might also represent a supervising officer that you may be dealing with, who may be somewhat paternal in nature. So this may be somebody who could be older, or just decides to take you under his wing, or may seem to want to protect you or your career somehow. Now, the other thing the reading's telling us is anything can happen. The fourth card in the spread, which represents the near future, is the Arcanum 10, which is the Wheel of Fortune. That's just a sudden change of some kind. This could represent a move that's faster than you expect. It could represent, a catapulting into a position that may be faster than you expect. But it could also represent, and you might want to hesitate on buying the fourplex, only because it could also indicate that you may be moving faster than you expect. So,
It could happen.
it could happen. So, you could be brought to one location and within 10 months be somewhere else. So, you might want to talk to this person to see if there's, of course, I know there's certain things that they, information is on an as-needed basis.
I'll know when it's there to get the feeling if I would ask the question.
Yeah, should I be buying real estate, or should this be a game of wait and see?
It's kind of, I could say something real quick. That phone call I got, it's a real estate agent up there, and she said, well, the government shut down VA. They got to go through some other avenues. I can't get to the VA because it's all civilians, most likely doing it. Also, TSP, imagine that. It's probably civilians too. I bet you'd have a hard time getting to that money too. But her saying that on the phone just before that, and you commenting about the real estate things, wow.
Yeah, it could all change faster than you expect, so don't be in a rush.
All right. Oh boy. Where am I to live?
Right. And then the outcome card here is the Five of Swords. And that card is normally read as an escape from danger. So I don't know if leaving Louisiana is what can happen there. Yeah, though it's not coastal where he is, but or this showing this is in the distant future. This, training and or maneuvers may also be something that might be more dangerous than expected. I don't know if this is in a climate or weather where you're dealing with downdrafts or updrafts
Mountainous environment.
Yeah,
Search and rescue.
unexpected things. So,
Saying be careful.
right. Or this could also represent the nature of the work being search and rescue, which is you may be rescuing people from an uncertain fate,
Right.
unless it's all practice. But even then, you can encounter, unusual winds or thermals that could affect the work
It's
that you
interesting
do.
you're saying that. 'Cause that is the nature of it.
Okay, well,
So the concern then I should take from it is to be careful, or
right, which I know you always are.
just
But
kind of.
as you said, flying after 11 p.m., one's not always at the top of their game. So that's when you may need an espresso maker. So,
That's right.
so that's how we do this spread, which is the yes or no spread. And those of you who have brought cards today, would either of you be willing to do this for someone in the class?
Sure.
I will be here to help with the interpretation
Thank goodness.
and or laying out or
Who wants to sit over here?
It's not a church deck. I mean, it's not a...
not everyone who's watching online or in this room
Good idea.
uses the Brotherhood of Light deck, and I think it's important for us to be able to recognize other cards. This is a board that Neil Cantwell made for us, and it's a pine board for doing readings on. So I've brought it up for that purpose.
My question is our family going to get over the arguments and come together and be cohesive in the future?
She has a very large deck too, which the larger decks are harder to shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot how many times I cut the deck.
5. I just count because I like playing solitaire. No, actually, I was saying you shuffled me 5 times. You asked how many times you cut.
Okay.
And although we have a formula, each person comes up with their own formula at times. So it's one will sometimes get this feeling about how much they need to do. It's like for those of you who bake, you sort of know when something's done, when to check the oven. So
Okay, so should I go ahead and
yes,
do
top
each
to
one?
bottom.
Hmm.
Wow, this is great. And what's the answer?
Tie.
It's maybe.
It's definitely
When I saw the
maybe.
middle one, that's what I got was maybe. But don't count on it for the near future.
So the distant past, the tower, and discord, disruption, upheaval of events, and I know it's related to the family since you shared that with us. In the recent past, we have the devil and something in the environment that bedevils you. Something's going on, possibly. And I get subterfuge.
There's some
from
chairs
that card
against that
also.
wall.
The current, but the activity now, the energy that surrounds you is a 7 of Swords reversed. And I think that generally means conflicts, arguments, someone getting away with something they shouldn't have, perhaps. Does that make sense?
Very much so.
Then, and it is reversed. And then the near future is the 4 of Cups reversed. And this often means regret, but with something left over. But it's a time of sadness and disappointment. But there is another cup here, so it's not everything. It's not a totally negative situation. It's just you might be disappointed initially, but in the future, the far future, is the Chariot. So the outcome is going to really take you great places. I mean, I think you're going to ultimately attain what you desire with the family unity and cohesiveness and the group, because it is the Chariot. It might even mean travel, change of location, but that's what
Yes,
I'm
Shep.
saying.
Does it mean that she'll find a way to, whatever happens to the family, she'll find a way to transcend it? Could that be?
I believe so, yes.
You know, in some decks, the chariot, I can't see those cards well from here, but in some decks, the chariot driver is driving a black and a white horse. And so I often interpret that as reconciling opposing factors so that they get you where you want to go, so that they work together as a team. Potential opposites can come together.
I think you did a great job, Michelle. An excellent job.
Thank you.
And obviously the cards, again, even though we're working with a different deck, the cards come up that reflect the question at hand. As she said, the Tower represents discord, anger, irritation, annoyance, problems in the past, friction. there's been conflict. The devil can represent also powers of selfishness or rigidity, where somebody's not willing to budge or move or give in some ways. Seven of Swords usually indicates danger through travel or sport, but we could also see it as a basic philosophical difference that's going on. Somebody may be on their high horse, or somebody may be holding to a moral point or a philosophical point about something, whether it's political, religious, or otherwise, may be, part of the mix. The Four of Cups in our tradition we read as an increase in the family. Is anyone pregnant?
My granddaughter's pregnant.
Okay.
She's due in January.
What I think is, in the near future, there's an increase in the family that will bring people together, perhaps over the birth of a new child. They might be nice for a few days. And
18 minutes, maybe?
yeah, 18?
About 15
18,
minutes?
yeah.
18 minutes?
Yeah. And then on top of that, you've got the Chariot, which we interpret as victory or overcoming obstacles.
Yeah, am I going to live long enough to see this?
Well, she said something about transcendence, so I
That's
didn't
what
know.
I wondered. That's what she said. That I'm like, am I going to see this from the other side or this side here? This side.
All right, so.
Am I traveling to the opposite side?
Right.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you so very much.
Great job.
Thank you also. That was beautiful.
John, you've got a deck of cards. Do you want to do this for someone?
Sure.
The meanings in our cards don't reverse when the cards are reversed. We just look at them. If they're right side up, they're expressing full force. When they're reversed,
It was like the first object question, and then you just read it for what it says on it.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Sometimes you have to let someone talk, and then from that you distill a question. So you can give us the story.
Scheduled to take a tour of Paris, but now I'm thinking I should cancel it and get my dog surgery. So I want to know if that is the right thing to be doing.
And one way we could do this is we could ask the question, is your money best spent on your dog's surgery?
Okay.
And that could be the yes or no. So
Yeah.
sometimes the reader has to distill the stuff that comes out of the other person's mouth into something concise that they can grab a hold of and pull the information through.
That's very good because that also will cover the piece of art I was thinking of buying. I just get these little obsessions and
Yeah.
Stay forward or not?
One no. Yes. Two no's, so that's three no's. Four no's to two yes.
which is the other yes?
The last one here is the King of Cups. In the distant past, a short journey. I'm not sure. Did your dog come with you on your recent or your move?
Yeah.
From. All right.
No, this
No?
dog I got here.
Okay.
And I might interpret this as her, it's about money. Is she spending money on the trip or on the dog?
Mhm.
Can you tell us what type of surgery he needs?
Cataract. So recently got diabetes, and I think he's still young enough that it would be worthwhile to help him out. And the doctor also said it could get worse.
All right. The Nine of Scepters in the recent past is traditionally a wise and profitable relationship.
Man's
So-
best friend,
Yeah.
or in this case, woman's best friend.
So it's very wise that you've come together, at least. Let's see. In the current situation, we have the Queen of Cups inverted. So there's a male in here with a Scorpio temperament involved.
Is it the dog or the vet?
The vet came to mind, but
Maybe.
I don't know if it's just
'Cause
too.
he's kind of hot.
All right.
Don't let that seduce you into spending money.
But is he forceful?
Is what?
Is he forceful? Aren't Scorpios rather forceful? Dramatic?
Passionate.
Yes.
Well, he's very confident.
Yeah, that answers it.
Traditionally good
Mhm.
surgeons.
What's that card again, please?
The
Queen of Cups reversed.
yes. Now, in the near future, we've got the I don't say High Priestess, the Veiled Isis card, science. So, I'm sure the vet just probably knows what he's doing when he says the cataracts. I mean, it's good that you're going through proper channels to make sure you know what's going on. Now, does the up and down have a significance when you're normally telling a story?
Not necessarily. It may be less emphatic when it's reversed.
And the far future, we've got the King of Cups, which has come up in the past, and so we've got come up in the last reading, a male of Cancer temperament. This may be the person you meet in Paris, if you said so.
So usually the reader does it their direction rather than facing the querent. Give her a summary on this.
But in general, the spread is giving you a no. I would go for a lot of. I would talk to the vet and get his good opinion about whether what you really think is going to be best or the most compassionate thing for your pet. And so I think that stands out in my mind that he probably is going to have some very good advice for you.
And what John said about being very careful about offering medical advice. When you're doing a reading, generally only licensed professionals can give medical advice and financial advice, yet people will ask you in both areas. And you have to be careful how you couch your terms. My interpretation of this in light of the question, is your money best spent on your dog? It's saying no. And it's saying the money's been planned for a trip, even though this dog may be your best friend. You're dealing right now with a man who's both hot but also forceful in his ideas about things. The near future is the information could change. This may be the test results on the animal, or it could even be that there's something through treatment for the diabetes, something may come about, or there may become another form of cataract surgery that becomes available in time. And I think with this as the outcome, that the dog and the dog's health is important. Your travel plans are important. And what you may be doing is looking at what you do for a period of time in terms of maintaining your dog's health and monitoring your dog's health before making the decision about surgery, which may be something that comes later after a trip. The artwork didn't show up here. and the no is the money earmarked for the trip shouldn't be spent, and that
Comes in there.
and that time needs to pass before doing the surgery.
But the other health issue involved here is it's my own health that I'm worried, that makes me reluctant to get on a plane for that long. I'm not sure that would be good for me because I've had trouble before after long flights, not being able to walk for a couple of days.
Wow. Yeah, in Paris is going to be a lot of walking.
Yeah, and I can always go there later when the dogs are gone before I get new ones.
Yeah.
That might be where I need the medical advice, not so much from the dog, whose situation I understand.
Yeah, it might be your own
From the
PCP.
doctor, it's, me. Maybe I should go talk to a doctor about me.
Yeah, what are the precautions you can take in travel? Because millions of people do it, and the majority of them do survive, which is the good news. Yeah. Great job.
Very good.
All right, let's learn another spread. We've exhausted the yes or no spread. All right, the next spread is the Magic 7, sometimes called the Lucky 7 spread. And this is a spread that's better used when you want to see, when you don't need a yes or no, but when you want an overview of a situation. And I usually head the question with what surrounds. Because basically the Magic 7 situation, the Magic 7 spread, shows us what's going on in the situation. We basically have 7 cards. We have a trine that points upwards, which tells us the past, the present, and the future of the matter. The trine which points, that's how things are ordained from above. Then there is the trine that points downwards, which is the individual's ability to control. What are the forces in the environment that are impacting this matter? What are the forces in the opposition that impact the matter being inquired about? And then the center card is the union of those two trines, which is what's the final outcome? What's the end result of the question? So it's very useful for anything, we could come up with any number of questions. What surrounds my son going to college? What surrounds my new job that I'm taking? What surrounds moving into my new home? What surrounds my relationship over the next 3 months? So those are some of the types of questions. Again, in that last question, I put a time factor in. Because when we're doing readings, if we narrow the time, keep in mind that the process we're going through is extension of consciousness. While we're in our ritual of shuffling and cutting the cards, there's this brief second where our consciousness crosses that etheric boundary line, touches the information on the inner plane. Some people call it the Akashic records, others the world line. I'm sure, the libraries of old, whatever you want to call it, the file cabinets, give it a name. It's going in there, grabbing the information, pulling it down, and arranging the cards through psychokinesis to come up in a particular pattern. So if you add in the time factor, what surrounds my relationship in the next 3 months? What surrounds my son's first year in college? Does anyone have a question they want to ask that may be more generic, that is looking at an overview of a situation?
I'm concerned about my husband's job at Intel.
Okay, would you take
yeah,
a chair
see.
opposite? And it's David, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to ask what surrounds David's employment at Intel over the next 12 months? Got the question? Shuffle, cut, rearrange, and then the cards are placed face down. Past, present, future, ability to control, the environment, the opposition, the outcome. The past of the matter is the horseman of coins right side up. This might tell us that it's been a good job for him. Whether it's in terms of pay, longevity, his thoughts and feelings about the work. So thus far, we might imagine from this that he either likes the job or is satisfied with the idea of being employed. The present is the Five of Scepters, which is normally interpreted as good fortune in business. So Intel, we know, is always undergoing reorgs and changes and letting people go and then rehiring. So we might get a sense when we get to the environment of what's happening there. But I would say from this that presently, I would assume that David is well-liked or appreciated or is in a good position or something that may not be affected by drawdowns or too many changes at this point. So they pay him, they like him. So far, so good. But we now have the future to look at, and that's what she's asking about. Here we have the Six of Scepters, which normally represents some business that's tied into music or art or drama. Now, that doesn't sound like Intel, except the fact that its processors are used in everything. So, and I don't imagine he's going to be doing jewelry sales on his lunch break or anything else like that there. So we might have to look outside of the external meaning, which is based on suit and number, and go to the inner meaning, which for this is the word ambition. And that's based on the decanate to which this card corresponds. That's the third decanate of Leo, which is Corvus the Crow. So maybe he's having Cuervo on his lunch break. Who knows? But in this case, there may be something opening up there that might require his being willing to take the bull by the horns or stand up for a position should it come available. That he might have to not just be lulled into some complacency because he's getting paid and they like him, but looking to see where he can grow within the organization. Because the future may have an opportunity for him there if he's motivated. His ability in the matter is the Ten of Cups. And the Ten of Cups usually we interpret as an unconventional love affair. I don't know that that would necessarily suit this job unless he's in love with his work and you find it to be odd. But the Ten of Cups can also represent an emotional roller coaster. Ups and downs and ups and downs. And this might mean that even though things are going well for David, he might actually have mixed feelings about being there. Therefore, every day might be a little bit of a roller coaster ride for him in terms of his feelings about what's going on. Or there might be people he has to deal with. The job may be great, but the people he may be interacting with could have an impact on his, personal cycle. So this might indicate, Ten of Cups, that he has to really figure out what it is he loves about his job and to be able to focus in on that. Or to be able to figure out what persons he really likes in the workplace and not to have an unconventional love affair, but in a sense to figure out, sometimes if we can figure out something we like about someone, it makes work much more appealing to us. So even if it is having a crush, one can have a crush in friendship or a crush in mentorship or just thinking, oh, this is the greatest person that I work with. So David has to figure out who there is basically his mentor. And in the environment, we have Arcanum 9, which is the sage. This is interpreted as prudence or circumspection. So David may have to look carefully at the environment from what the learning opportunities are and really what persons are there, who is there that could mentor him. Is there an older, wiser, more seasoned professional in the environment that will take him under his cloak and teach him the ropes? And part of that, in any work environment, part of it's the work, and a huge part is the people. So in any workplace, we have to manage personalities, which some of us do better than others with. So David might have to figure out, what the temperaments are, what the personalities are of the people he's working with. The opposition is the Queen of Swords reversed, which represents a man of Virgo temperament. Now, this could either represent someone external to David, a man in the work environment that might be very picky, hypercritical, perfectionist, having exacting standards. Or it could represent a part of David's psyche where he may be aware of the glaring imperfections of where he works, whether it's in their organizational structure, the leadership he's dealing with, the personality or character flaws of his colleagues or coworkers. And my experience in life is whenever I'm focused in on what's missing, I am an unhappy person. And whenever I am focused in on what I have, I'm a full person and a person. So one of the things David might have to do is be careful in terms of whose inventory he's taking in the workplace, and to try and figure out on what the pluses are over the deltas of the work environment. But the outcome is the Two of Swords. The final card is the Deuce of Swords, however, which represents either sickness through overwork or just becoming unhappy with work and leaving. So, my sense is the job is good, there's opportunities to learn and to advance, but he could chafe under a relationship with a supervisor or coworker and ultimately want out. Is it a new job or?
No, when you mentioned emotional roller coaster, 10 of Cups, he's been in various positions helping out while people were gone on sabbatical or reassigned to Arizona for 6 months. So he's been in these different positions.
Temp positions,
but with promise that it was going to be permanent, and then that didn't happen. Oh, we've changed our mind. We want an electrical engineer for the job you've done for us for 6 months. So, there's yeah.
Okay.
And there's a possibility that he might be relocating to another fab on a temporary or permanent basis. We just don't know yet, but that's very insightful.
Yeah, I think change is the order of the day, and his, he's got employment. Yeah, he's got skills.
He's good with personalities and people.
Great.
So, thank you.
All right. I want to go back, and the other thing I like to do when looking at a spread is to summarize, and you can sit there. I like to look to see, are there suits that are repeated? Are there numbers that are repeated? is there a pattern involved? And basically, there is not. The only suit that repeats well, there's two suits that repeat themselves. We have two scepters, which have to do with business, and we have two swords, which have to do with conflict. So that kind of explains the situation. He's in a business setting, but where there has been this disappointment, these challenges, this discord, this conflict going on. So, but everything's represented here. We have a coin, a sword, scepter, cup. And only one major arcanum, which is the sage, prudence or circumspection. So he needs to just always be viewing the situation, taking the temperature of the situation. Only one court arcanum, man of Virgo temperament, and again, we don't know if this is a supervisor or just his awareness of their deficiencies, the failing promises.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd like to know what surrounds my successful development of self-employment regarding offering myself as a oracle reader.
We need something really concise. So we might say what surrounds Laura's developing a career as a reader. Just shows you practice, practice, practice.
So first card over here.
There's one. Just follow my hands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Excellent. And look, they all fit.
So start with the past. So we have the magician and ghost. I mean, sometimes because I know Laura, it's kind of subjective.
Right, it is. And we talked about that. When we know someone, our readings can be more subjective. And the other thing is you could pretend that it's some stranger sitting there asking you this question.
Well, also, I've had a long career as a reader, and what I'm wanting to do is up this to earn a living at it, a viable, dependable living.
To me, this is telling me that skill you have as a reader with the magician, alchemy, combining everything for a certain result. It's the magas. So I feel like that does speak of your skills. And then the second card is going to be present. The High Priestess reversed, mystery, unknown, events yet to reveal themselves. So,
Mysteries yet to be revealed.
yeah,
Michelle.
hidden information, the unknown. I feel like this is the energy that is present with you now, but yet there's still an unknown there. Maybe some imponderable forces yet to be revealed. So then,
The future.
future. Have I just? Oh gosh. Okay.
Looks good.
6 of coins. You're going to receive money, but it's still going to be restricted.
All right.
That's just an issue right now. Probably.
Oh, got it.
That's immediate. I felt that it's concerning money, but it is reversed, and I think that she's going to get help. 6 of coins in the Church of Light. That meaning, I'm not certain.
Well, what does it mean to you, since you're the reader?
Money.
Okay.
And although money is going to be tight, you're still going to be receiving money. So then, the ability to control, which is this one, justice. With justice being in position, ability control, I think you're going to have harmony in your ability to control. I think that you will find those opportunities for you to be a reader at events or for different people. And I think you'll receive a good income for that too. Fairness in the energy sent as well as the energy remuneration you're going to receive. And this is the environment?
Yes.
Okay, the Fool reversed. However, that would be not the materialist, but Arcanum 22,
Spiritualist.
the spiritualist. And that is in your environment. I feel that your path is harmonious, with your goals, your career and your goals and your life. I see a synergy there. This, to me, when I see the Fool, I also think of searching, seeking something. And with this being the environment, I feel that it's close at hand. So then we go to card number, the opposition. Oh, here. The Sun reversed. But the Sun is always a positive card. So even when reversed, it's still sunny. So the Sun in opposition just might be, maybe this would be there's a desire to play, have fun, and not always focus on earning, on the money aspect.
Heck yeah.
So, I mean, who can blame
Sign me
anyone for
up.
that?
Yeah.
But so it might be like on a personal level, finding a balance between having fun and then really directing your energy toward, your profession.
Well said.
And then the outcome card, this drum roll. You have the Chariot. Yeah.
Yeah,
This is Major Arcanum.
Major.
Heavy,
All
we
of them
might
are
say.
major arcanum except this guy.
So does a major give you a better,
Well,
stronger
this is
reading?
that
It's their very
alone-
powerful influences.
That alone tells me that this is a really important question for me to be
It is.
asking in my life. And it's a vote of confidence that I should follow the sense that I have that I feel very on purpose when I'm doing readings. Because all these majors are like resounding to me.
Well, especially the Chariot, approaching
Chariot
a goal,
is a
destination.
So give her a summary of the whole story.
The summary?
Yeah.
Let's see. The summary would be that you have already within you the skills you need to make your career, the professional desire you have to come to fruition. It's just going to be, it's been a hard road. However, it's just remain patient. This is what surrounds you. You have all this strong energy. And I see that ultimately you're going to arrive at the destination you seek.
Thank you, Michelle.
Well stated. I'm going to give my overview.
Please.
Again, I think you were spot on. The past of the matter is the magus, so that represents will, dexterity. It's something you've been studying, thinking about, developing the skill, and here he is sitting at his table with his tools. So you've honed your instrument. The present is the High Priestess or Isis, Veiled Isis, reversed. So first two cards are reversed, and this could indicate that you're at the threshold, of the mysteries, and where you're just really pondering this, looking for a sign, or just figuring out the gestation of this. How long is it going to take? The future is the Six of Coins, which is definitely money in your future, but that card represents social events. And so where you might make your inroads, or whether it's going to read at parties, of people you know, setting up, asking your friends when they're having a party, can I set up my little TV tray and cards and do readings for donations? Just to be able to pass out your card so that people have access to your email or phone number. You might have to look at the groups or the social milieu in which you move as being the way in which you make money. Already established friendships. Your ability to control is through justice, and so the most important thing you could work at, Laura, is your personal equilibrium on a daily basis. That might mean committing to your meditation practice, maintaining poise of mind, of being able to make things manifest. Here, he uses the 8, so 8 is 2 4s, realizations kept in balance. Environment, which is the Fool. Reversed, if we look at that as the spiritualist, it's sort of recognizing that you're on the path, you've always been on the path, and that it's sort of moving forward both blindly and elegantly towards your goal. The opposition, I thought that Michelle's interpretation of that was great, which is working full-time could seriously cut into your playtime.
Yeah, it always has.
And so there may be a habit system in place that can make this undesirable to you. However, the other thing the sun can represent too can even be your own confidence in the matter. Could be lacking. Not because you don't have the tools and you don't have the insights. There could be something else that's happened that has, lessened your confidence. Or it could also be that you don't want too much attention, which the sun can represent. Want to be able to do it and do it stealth. But the outcome, of course, the Chariot is overcoming obstacles and moving ahead. And the thing you might have to look at this, since the Chariot is also about teaching, is how do you use your readings as a vehicle for instruction?
I knew that, but I still had a...
You're up, John. Would you be willing to do this for someone who's online? I'll read the question to you. Is from Gloria in Ohio. I want to go to Greece in December. Will this be a good time to leave my home and family? One more. We want to give her an outcome.
We don't flip in the same order we lay down, do we?
Yes.
Okay.
Very simple. I'll give you something more complicated after this.
Okay, we've got the Horseman of Cups reversed. Now, this is generally concerning the thoughts on things, right? So the past. Been, thinking about it in a thoughts of love and affection. Is this, is there some sort of romantic interest in Greece, maybe, or some, or at least the very romantic thoughts about the trip?
And another way to interpret that is its emotions and what came up in her. The question she asked is it a good time to leave my home and family? So my guess is, actually what's in back of the question is she's been worried about family situations that might be calling her travel into question.
All right. And the present would be the Seven of Coins reversed. And money earned through a journey as the present. Interesting.
Since Gloria's not here, we don't get to question her. Are you going on a business trip to Greece?
Right.
It could be, this card can represent money earned on a journey, but it can also be money spent on travel. So.
And the Three of Scepters reversed for the future. Let's see. Business partnership. So it's possibly that this could be a fruitful business relationship through the trip.
Yeah, even if she's planning on a social or family trip, there could be something that sparks while traveling where she sees a money or business opportunity or allies herself with someone where there could be opportunities.
And here we have the Magician for the ability to control. It sounds like you're probably going to be in control of this situation. Yeah, skillful endeavor. I think you're gonna, if it happens, you're gonna own it. At least that would be my interpretation.
Environment.
Chariot reversed. You're going to need to reconcile those people beside you on both sides of your seat, but you'll get to where you're going. Opposition. The Hanged Man. Interesting.
Right side up.
Right side up. Is this going to? Are you going to have any guilt, or are you going to be leaving anybody out in the cold by taking off? Are there any outside repercussions or other things to consider? Are you making a personal sacrifice? That's an interesting card. And the outcome. Let's see, the Queen of Coins. Reversed. So that would be a male figure of Libra influence. Possibly you can meet somebody. It might be related to the business opportunities or some sort of fruitful relationship to be the final outcome. I mean, I think I'm not seeing anything in here that tells me no, that this would be a bad time for the trip. It seems to be a very interesting and meaningful spread to me.
I would say this definitely shows travel because numerically we have 2 sevens coming up, which is the number of travel. So I do believe she's going to do it, but with the past of the matter, she's fussing or fretting over the trip, or there's been some recent events in her family which may wonder if they can function without her. Here, this shows presently she may be ready to commit money to the trip. This could be looking, on Priceline or something else to get her tickets or arrange her lodging. Again, there are some type of alliances that will happen. The Three of Scepters, although we interpret that as professional or business, she would be going for a relationship building reason. And what determines this is purely her will, which is saying, yeah, I'm going and I'm going to make my plans. This does show traveling and having adventure and being on sort of also a personal pilgrimage. The opposition, there could be worries about, I don't know if this is an elder relative's health that she may be leaving behind. Hopefully she's not considering leaving children under the age of 13 on their own. There is something problematic here, or there could be, a family member that gains anxiety or acts out when she's gone. So there's any number of reasons to say not to do it. But the outcome, the Queen of coins reversed does represent a sense of balance, equilibrium, and or a man she may be dealing with there that, helps to make this a successful trip. So,
When I see the Chariot reversed, balancing out the Hanged Man, it makes me think perhaps the timing of the trip might be delayed. A timing issue, patience, I associate with the Hanged Man, and the Chariot reversed. Like the Magus seems like it's saying, yeah, you can make this happen, but examine the proposition of what is the best time for it.
right, but looks like she'll do it. Yes, in terms of, as above, it's still sort of in a thought and organizational way. But once she makes up her decision, the so below, it looks like it happens and everything plays out, including the reasons for why she may, not want to go. There could be an elder relative that gets hospitalized while she's gone, but her presence there might not make a difference in
What makes
their
you say
well-being.
elder relative?
To me, the Hanged Man shows someone in a state of debility. So I just, part of the intuitive process is saying what pops into your mind in the moment. And it's not always based on just symbols, but it's the pictures you get, the words, the vocabulary that comes to you, the feeling. And that's where the intuition is with the tarot. All right, I'm going to teach you another spread. Thank you very much. This is a trip for 3 months. My oldest son is not well. My daughter has an upcoming trial, and I will travel couch only. Money is, of course, a concern. Thank you. Enjoy traveling on your couch, which at least you're getting to go on a trip. 3 months in Greece. My goodness. This last spread that we're doing tonight, which is actually the most complex spread I do, it's called the horoscope spread because it's a 12-card spread that is based upon the symbolism of a horoscope. We practiced this last week with very ornate descriptions. And basically the process is the cards are placed down in one pattern. We place them down in 4s, forming a cross. And we pick them up in trinities, 3 cards at a time. Like that. Simple, right? Doesn't get easier than that. And the thing that you have to do is even just practice laying it out so frequently that it becomes a second nature for you. The thing we don't want to be going through when we're doing a spread is either feeling too tensed out about shuffling and cutting the cards, which one can do when their deck is oversized or really slippery or new. Sometimes that makes us uncomfortable and our attention's going to our discomfort rather than to contacting the information. We also don't want to have to concentrate too much on where we're putting them, because when we're doing this, it is a somewhat trance-like state because we're experiencing an altered consciousness. And the way I do this spread is always as a general reading, and it's always as a cold reading, which is without a question and without really knowing any information about the person that's coming for the reading. So is there anyone that wants to sit for this? So what I'm going to ask is basically what significant events will be coming into John's life over the next 12 months. I've set up the question, I've set up a time parameter, so I'm telling my subconscious, you're diving in to pick this up off the pool floor. You're going specifically for this information. And then I go through the process of shuffling and cutting the cards. And part of what I'm showing you in this process of interpreting, both by having other people interpret and my stepping in to interpret, is we have a formula that we work with. And when we're first learning, the formula is very important, both in the way in which we formulate the questions, the process of shuffling and cutting, laying the cards down, and with what I call your cheat sheets, knowing a certain amount of information about each card. I always recommend to beginning students that as you're developing your vocabulary around your cards, get a fine point Sharpie and write it in the outer borders. Write the words in. By the time you wear out this deck, by the time this deck looks like the deck I've been bringing for the last few sessions, you'll never need to write on your deck again because that information will be retained. And the greater your vocabulary, the more specific it can be, the more helpful you are to the client. Having key words, that just works to bring up other things as well as symbols, the imagery, but also the internal imagery. So the first position in this reading corresponds in an astrological chart to the first house, which has to do with one's health, vitality, their self-expression, their personality. But in the horoscope spread, I also emphasize the first position as being what is the personal interest of that individual. Quite often the first card that comes up in the spread may trigger the thing that they're thinking about most. In this case, we have the King of Scepters reversed, which shows a woman of Aries temperament. So, in interpretation with this, I might say one of the things that could be important over the next 12 months is there could be a woman coming into your life who may be headstrong, impulsive, assertive, aggressive, or competitive in some ways that could have an influence on you personally. From this, we don't know if this is personal interest and romantic, whether it's a professional interest, whether it's an annoying neighbor, or somebody who becomes a best friend or mentor. But we can say that there's this female influence coming in that's going to seem to have a strong personal impact. The fifth house, which has to do with matters of love, romance, creativity, and matters of speculation or gambling, we have the King of Swords showing up here, a man of Taurus temperament. So this is a period where you may find yourself looking at your playtime. This could be whether it's in terms of your attitudes towards romance. It may have to do with, since the Taurus man has to do with money, it may be looking at the areas of your life that are speculative, whether this is going to the casino, whether it's going to the racetrack, whether it's taking a gamble in a business matter, or just looking at your stock portfolio. It's a time where you're going to be assessing your wealth and what risk you have to take in order to achieve what you want there. The ninth house has to do with matters of travel but also matters of the higher mind, one's philosophy, one's education. With the Ace of Coins there, it indicates a short journey, so you may find yourself going out of town, might possibly be on a financial or business matter, or you may just decide to spend some money on going places. Could also be spending money on an education, whether this is taking classes, workshops, seminars, or new trainings in your field somehow. Then we go. That's the trinity of life. So life is our experiences within our body and our personal interest, our romantic and or adventure interest, our interest in travel and philosophy, the things that make us feel excited, enthusiastic, alive. The trinity of wealth is going to be the 2nd, the 6th, and the 10th house. The 2nd house pertains to money and finance. And here we have the Deuce of Cups reversed. Normally this is interpreted as a labor of love. So this might indicate that your income during this period of time is going to come through something you really enjoy. Or you may figure out how to have more fun in what you're doing. Your work environment, which is the 6th house, and your relationships with colleagues or coworkers or professional allies is symbolized by the 6th house, which is the Deuce of Scepters. And that's business pending on scientific methods. And no doubt, from what little I can understand about your work, it involves techie things and calibrations and the brain of the car. So, and your reputation, your career, your relationships with bosses or advisors is signified by the 10th house. And here we have the Horseman of Scepters right side up, which shows thoughts of a business advantage. So this is a time where you may excel either in self-promotion, or you may find your reputation building, or where you may get more business because other people are doing your promotion. This could be word of mouth, where other people speak highly of you, and that ensures your career life. Or it could also represent that it's a time where you may get another bright idea of something else you can be doing business-wise, or adding to your repertoire of skills, or a service that you might be able to offer to already existing clients. Now we move to the trinity of association. 3rd house is brethren, extended relatives, neighbors. 7th house is our companions, our client, if we are in a direct service-related career, and also our opponents or competitors. And then the 11th house is our social circles. Those friends we might consider more as acquaintances other than our, best friend or ally, or the people that we know through our community or social and group activities. So we start with the 3rd house, and this is the 3 of Cups. One of the other matters that the 3rd house rules is our dominant thinking. And this is going to be a time, John, where you're going to be thinking about companionship. 3 of Cups is a marriage for love, and although you may not be, maybe her. But again, you may be haunted by a desire for companionship at this time. The 8 of Scepters is generally read as a political appointment. Well, this doesn't necessarily mean that, our governor or president or mayor is going to assign you to a committee. But it might be a time where you set up some business alliances where it may seem like an appointment to you. Somebody may want to, assign you to a particular part of their business or industry or offer something to you that could be very tempting, but it would require working in a much closer alliance with someone, which could have you weighing that out, whether how much independence you want to give up in what you're doing, because they might be looking for a contractual arrangement with the number 8 here. In friendships, you're going to be having a blast. This is the Horseman of Scepters, which show thoughts towards your health and well-being, and you're going to be finding friends that you just really get excited being around, or where you feel like they're mutually beneficial friendships, that the exchanges contribute to your well-being, or you may feel like you find a group of friends where you feel safe in some ways, that there's not antagonism or undermining or competitiveness going on. So we've done the Trinity of Association. Now we're doing the Trinity of Psychism, which is 4th house of home and family, the 8th house of death and the spirit world, the 12th house of one's intuitions and unconscious mind. And Zeus.
I love that.
Oh, Zeus. I heard Zeus, as in the god of thunder and lightning.
12th house. It just says zoos on this list. I want to make sure I have my relationship with the animals mixed up.
All right.
Big deal.
The King of Cups reversed can show a woman of Cancer temperament. Is your mom coming for a visit?
Not that I know of. But,
All right.
I think she's been knocking on the psychic door for the last 2 years. So
Okay. Is she embodied or disincarnate? Okay.
she's still around.
All right.
You see a Cancer?
No.
Well, it shows a woman of maternal nature, a female family member that may be reaching out or looking to make contact in some way, or even coming into your home. So do you have a sister or female cousin you're on good terms with? Or
I don't keep much contact with my family. But
okay.
I do have, yeah. there's-
Well, they may send out a search party then.
I've got some stories.
Okay. Yeah, everyone does. Then the 3 of Swords. I mean, this doesn't even have to be your mom coming to visit. I mean, it could be your having contact, feeling the presence of a disembodied female relative. You know, your grandma or great-grandma may be, pushing your Ouija board around. 3 of Swords in the 8th house, which could indicate the 8th house is both the spirit world, but it's also other people's money. If we look at this from the concept of the spirit world, this may be a time where you may look to disengage from some persons where you may feel like there's some psychic contact going on, or if there's somebody out there that makes attempts to manipulate or control or have an influence. You may be it may be a time that you're looking at psychic self-protection. If we look at this in terms of other people's money, this may be a time where you're clearing up some loose ends in terms of credit or indebtedness, or whether it's, accounts receivable or accounts payable, but trying to get everything into place. And it may also be a time where you're looking at what persons you no longer want to be in a financial relationship with. So this might be anything from annoying to high-maintenance clients, or a certain credit card company you've used in the past. And the last card, the 12th house, which has to do with intuitions and the unconscious mind, is the Pharaoh or the Sovereign, Arcanum 4. The only major arcanum coming up. Where I find the major arcanum fall shows where big stuff is happening. That's why we call them major. And for this, you will get to the zoo. but as you're waiting to do so, you may also do a lot of internal development at this time. So this could be a time of great personal realizations, whether this is, finding a therapist, whether it's working on self-development, whether it's, meditation or internal process, or reading inspirational materials, or fine-tuning your own intuitions. But there's going to be a lot of light bulbs that go on in your thinking at this time. And the cat on the side here shows being able to see into the dark, or being able to see and going to the zoo and seeing the big cats. Yes. So let's do a summary. We'll look at importance and patterns. We have one major arcanum, and it has to do with your inner life. So that may be where the most vital, profound stuff happens over the next year. However, we could also say we've got 3 court arcanum coming up. So this is an influential year in terms of people in your life, whether it's real family members or the family you build around you. There's going to be a time of alliance or relationship building. 2 horsemen, which are thoughts, putting the mental energy behind the action. And for you, that may be professional and social, your group activities and your business building. The next thing we can look for is any repeated numbers, and the only one that's coming up here is there's 2. We have 2 deuces and 2 treys. The deuces have to do with work, labor, and skill. The treys have to do with relationships. Those you want to enter into relationship with, the 3 of Cups. Those that you want to leave relationship with, the 3 of Swords. So it's sort of doors opening and doors closing in terms of your alliances. Lastly, what I look at is suits. What suits are repeated here? Well, if we look at scepters, we have 1, 2, 3 scepters, which have to do with business. So we could say 1/4 of your energy might be professionally focused at this time. If we look at cups, we have 1, 2, 3 cups. So 1/4 of your efforts is going to be also focused emotionally. And then if we look at swords, we've got 1, 2, 3 swords coming up. So this is also going to be a time where you're just dealing with the really practical elements of life. So that's how this spread works. And because of time, we don't have time to do another. But do we have any questions from those present or not present in terms of how the spread works? Or anything, since this is the end of the class. Are there any questions, perplexities? Michelle?
Just a general question. When someone comes to you for a reading, you can't change the energy of reading, right? So that if they get a reading that they don't like, what's the validity of going and getting another reading?
There usually is no validity, and that's such an excellent question, Michelle. If you're doing a reading for yourself and you don't like the answer, you don't keep laying the cards out till it says what you want. Yes, he loves me not. He loves me not. He loves me, yes, that's the answer I wanted. You don't keep doing that till you manipulate it to be obedient to your will. What you do is, if you don't like a reading, you try to gain from the information. Okay, what do I need to know from this? Is there something I can do to change the outcome of this, since I don't like the direction this is going? you are training your unconscious mind to bring information to you. Now, if every time the dog brings you your slippers or newspaper, you beat it and tell it, no, I want a different newspaper, bring me the New York Times and not the Albuquerque Journal, the dog will either become really conflicted or stop performing for you. So again, what you want to do is build up the confidence that, the information that comes up is probably right, whether you like it or not. For example, last week, I did a reading on a friend's health status. I was convinced that his cancer had gone into bone metastases and that we were going to get really bad information from the oncologist. I did a reading on it, which looked just very bright, cheerful, happy, and ended up with the Nine of Cups in the outcome, which is, receiving really good news, having one's wishes realized. And I thought, oh, this can't possibly be right, because in my heart of fear, I'm perceiving something else. So we go to the oncologist, who comes in smiling and says, your cancer has not progressed in 2 years. It remains unchanged, which is the best news you can get in this case of stage 4 cancer. So the reading was actually correct. And my conscious mind, my subjectivity, was refusing that information because I was in a very fearful state. I was in a traumatized state. So you don't just keep going at it till you get the thing that's going to reflect what you believe. You do it. One reason you write it down and you put a date and your name like you did in school is you can go back later and measure the results, as I did. I went back and I looked at that spread, and the spread was correct in what it had told me, but I was refusing the information. You too may get persons coming to you with questions and they refuse the information. And there's nothing you can do for them other than hopefully record it, and they may find it in their garage in a tape recorder or in a CD player 8 years later and listen back to it. I always like to say shift happens. So things can happen, and it's better to know in advance. I can remember once when, this is some 20-odd years ago, where a client came and asked about her son. And I said, he needs to be really careful driving because he's very accident prone at this time. And she said, well, that's good to know. And 2 weeks later, in the middle of the night, I get a call, and my son was killed in a car accident. He was not driving, he was in the passenger side, and he was T-boned by another car. And I'm so grateful that you gave me that heads up, because it actually softened the blow for me, knowing to expect that. Now, that's not something we'd normally think of. To have a child predecease you is the unimaginable for any of us. But by being able to have that information, it can sometimes soften the blow. Could I do anything to prevent that event? I couldn't. Another time, 35 years ago, a pregnant friend came to me and, asked me about an upcoming birth, and the end card in the reading was the Ace of Swords, which is sickness or death. And my advice was, it's very possible you're going to need a surgical birth, even though you're planning to do this at, home, blah, blah, blah. And you need to be very attentive in the last couple weeks of pregnancy. And what happened? the baby didn't move for 10 days. The umbilical cord had become wrapped around its neck, and the baby was brought full term but stillborn. And I don't know any, to say to someone, oh no, your baby's going to be born dead. There is no advantage in doing that to anyone. But to try and direct someone towards, prenatal care to the best of their ability and advise them in vigilance is the best thing you could do. In this case, it did not have an impact over the outcome. And that was something that was distressing to me for a long time. The feeling of helplessness in that situation. Now, I'm just giving you two really severe cases of bad news coming through. But the reader has to figure out, with bad news, we don't always know what level of control we have over the outcome of something. And as I've gotten older, I sometimes think there is less and less control other than the control over one's attitude towards any event in their life. And that is the one thing that we have the power to deal with. Each of us has to survive our own lives and everything that happens in it, as does everyone that comes to you. And so part of what you're doing is offering people coping skills and ways of gaining deeper understanding. Because sometimes the bad events in our lives have a purpose or reason, as much as we rail against them, that we can see later on in times. And sometimes in my own life, the periods where it really looked like things were falling apart, things actually fell into place when I was able to get far enough away from the mishap to look back and say, well, if that hadn't happened, this, and this would not have happened, which has actually been for my benefit or highest good. So if nothing else, the hardest thing to do in intuitive work is being able to deal with those, the bad news that comes up or the crises, situations in people's lives, and being able to direct it to the best of your ability. I know we're over time, but the other thing that I find can affect a reading is the state in which someone comes to you. Now, persons may come in states of anxiety or apprehension, but the thing that is hardest to deal with is when somebody comes in a state of depression, and or someone who deals with chronic depression. The reason for that is I have found that that state has a particular filter on it, much like a colored lens we may put on a light or a grid that we put over our window that allows things of a certain size to come through but not others. And in persons that are either in a deep state of depression or chronically depressed, the only things that will stick to their flypaper is the bad news in a reading. And that will be the one piece that sticks and around which all of the attention will go. So that's just a warning. And the thing is, again, the advantage of recording a reading is there's a whole lot of other stuff in there that when one listens to at another time, they get the full picture. Another advantage is clients get to listen to themselves, which I have had many over the years tell me that hearing themselves is as informative as listening to me. So, so we'll end with that. Anyways, thank you all for being here.